Hi, my name is Glenn Murphy. I am one of two presenters of this video series on how to market and harvest your woodlot for profit. My co-presenter is Dr. Reen Visser from the University of Canterbury. In video 4, you will have seen that woodlot owners who have had experiences in harvesting their forests generally recommend that the services of independent professional harvesting and marketing specialists are engaged. In video 5, we will first hear from a harvesting and marketing specialist who specialises in woodlots. He will talk about the type of services his company offers and what is covered in agreements between his company and woodlot owners. Then we will look in a bit more detail at conditions of sale, contracts, and methods of payment.
Forest 360 is predominantly North Island based. We do have small operations in the South Island, but the bulk of our harvest and marketing is North Island wide. We deliver to all major ports, and of course we have an abundance of local sawmills we also support as well. Within the company, I specialise in a lot of small woodlots. I manage at the moment forests between 2 hectares and 4,000 hectares. 4,000 certainly the biggest one I'm managing at the moment with 4 crews in there. A fair bit of my work comes through word of mouth. You're harvesting in a general area. Word gets out to a lot of private owners, farmers, particularly farmers around in the general area, So a lot of it's word of mouth. Some of it's from internet-based stuff now, social media, things like that. We do the full service. Obviously, we chase the best prices for our clients. That's obviously the key when you're marketing the wood. We look at where a particular forest is situated in terms of ports, domestic mills, and then we go about getting the forest owner the best return in terms of the particular logs in their stands. I deal with a lot of different stands, untended stands, some nice prune stands, and of course some framing stuff as well. So there's certainly a wide variety there. And within my area, we have a reasonably broad market base for that in terms of domestic and export capacity. We're full harvesting services we provide from ground-based to cable logging. We have a multitude of crews. Some crews are more specialised in areas than other crews. So steep country, flat country, sand, we do the lot, mate. Generally, no woodlot's too small or too big. We'll look at everything, but a lot of it comes down to contractor preference as well. So that's something we deal with as well, with expectations on some owners to get some pretty small remote blocks done. Obviously, we want to support them the best we can, and basically it comes down to a contractor at the end of the day on their willingness to complete a certain job.
What sort of recommendations would you pass on to woodlot owners who are thinking about harvesting their woodlot?
I think with our regulations at the moment, it's important to seek professional advice on that. Like, the stuff I do is no obligation for our owners, so I can go in there and give them advice on markets is a key one. Obviously, harvest timing. We have a lot of forests on the go, so getting in early, booking a harvest early is important. Roading infrastructure, getting things like that done early. We certainly help with that. We do a lot of pre-funding of roading with our forest to ensure we have a good road in pre-harvest. And just basically a general feeling on their forest when it's going to be ready. And that's another key one is just having that forest ready, having a good sized log or a mature forest before harvesting, depending on the markets, of course.
What sort of agreements do you put in place with the forest, with the woodlot owner?
Harvest and marketing contracts are reasonably substantial. We do have a smaller contract for smaller woodlots under 2,000 tonnes, so to speak. Our larger contracts do take a fair bit of reading in there, and it's basically clauses in there that basically keeps your marketing company working with the owner on achieving, the obligations within the contract, statutory regulations, liability, compliance, things like that. So it's basically an agreement put in place so I can go ahead and do my job, and there's some assurances to the forest owner that they're getting the service that they need. We tailor our agreements to suit a particular client's needs, and they're things that are discussed with them in the initial proposal, and then they get added into the contract. Some things possibly taken out where they're not needed, but certainly site rehabilitation requests, things like that, certain infrastructure within the forest boundaries, things like that aren't to be damaged. You might have pump houses, power wires, fences, all kinds of things really. Glenn, it varies from forest to forest.
Let's look at a bit more detail now at the conditions of sale and contracts. The conditions of sale or service are the basis of the agreement between the buyer and the seller. The purpose of drawing up these conditions is to protect your interests. These can later become part of the formal sale or service agreement. Matters which you should consider when arranging the conditions of sale or service are as follows. The basis of the sale, that's the species, location, quantity, form of the trees or logs, boundaries of the woodlot, and so on. The prices and the point of sale. So is it on truck, on landing, at the mill? Access. That's the location of access to the woodlot, if there are any seasonal restrictions, who pays if new construction is required. It is necessary to state whether logs are to be weighed or scaled, and if scaled, the unit of measurement to be used. If selling by weight, the weight to volume conversion factor should be specified. The dates at which logging will be commenced and at which all produce must be removed should be specified. The need to heap up all debris into windrows to facilitate burning or spread so that replanting is made easier should be stated. A date by which all equipment should be removed should be specified. The minimum size of material to be removed and the maximum stump height should be stated to ensure that the buyer does not leave saleable material in the woodlot. It also should be stated that saleable material left after the removal date will be scaled and charged for. The conditions of sale or service should also specify what conditions are needed during and after harvesting to protect animals and property, for example, fences and damaged pasture. And if things are damaged, who pays for the restoration? It should specify what fire safety equipment is needed and how fire risk will be handled. It should be stated that the buyer will be required to indemnify the seller against damage to property resulting from the logging and removal of produce. It should be stated that obligations under the Resource Management Act and the Health and Safety at Work Act will be met. The terms of payment should be set out. These usually include a deposit depending on the size of the sale and payment at regular intervals, for example, monthly. It should be stipulated that the buyer may not transfer the rights of sale without the seller's consent. And finally, any special conditions relating to the particular area of trees to be sold should also be specified. For example, if access must cross a neighbour's property, it should be stipulated who is responsible for arranging logging routes and access right. The conditions of sale, along with other provisions, for example, arbitration and penalty if there's a late payment, are included in the contract for sale or service. A solicitor should be used to ensure that the contract is legally acceptable and binding upon both parties. Careful drafting of the contract itself is usually more productive than arguing about what you intended after things have turned sour. Uncertainty and ambiguity are the enemies of good contractual relationships, both in the field and in court. To ensure that full payment is received for your woodlot, you need to be confident that good records are being kept of what volume of logs leaves your property and that the wood buyer has the ability to pay for what he takes. Wood buyers from reputable firms could be expected to arrange for a copy of the truck loading docket to be left in an agreed place for you on a regular basis, or to email you digital copies of the dockets each day or week. Guarantee of payment is very important. Ask for a deposit up front if there are any doubts about the ability of the buyer to pay. Arrange for regular payments throughout the term of the contract, for example, fortnightly or monthly. Don't wait until the block is finished to find out that you are not going to be paid. Some large companies arrange for direct crediting of payments on a fortnightly basis for timber they purchase from woodlot owners. This concludes video 5. In video 6, we will look at safety considerations and your responsibilities as a landowner while harvesting is taking place on your property. If you have any questions, please direct these to the email link shown below.